Bismillah. So today we are going to discuss, in fact this is a part of the previous lecture, but there is some addition to it. We have so far discussed the literature review, the process of research, and you are already checking research articles. So now we have to understand that research is of many types. So in this lecture we'll try to understand the various types of research, and in your assignment you must have seen that there are 4 examples, and they are of different types. So in one example you will see that there is use of case study. In one example you will see that there is a use of survey scale. And we have to be clear now, what are these? Why are these different types of research? So we'll start. I don't know how my voice is that side, but even if it is not clear, please pay attention, because since I am recording it, so you will also get the recorded lecture with you. Can you hear me or not at all? Huh? Not at all? All right. So first of all, you now, if you look at this sample assignment, now this is the first thing I just want to make clear about your assignment on literature review, that each student, because that's very important for you. So I'll just try to explain to you all the 14 questions, and then we will go to the lecture. Now, what you got to exactly do is important for you to understand, because this is the most important part of your project. Now what you are supposed to do is you have already selected your topics and you have decided your members. Now each member, you will sit together and then decide that we will search for the articles in Emerald or Scopus or ISI, and you will see that when you type the keywords in the library, you will get a lot of articles. So all the articles may not be of your use. So what you are supposed to do is that you first read the titles, topic of the articles that you get in the search result, and then you see if this article is related to or interesting to you, it's related to your topic. If it is, then you will select it, download it, and save it in one folder. So similarly, all of you will select 2 articles each. For each group there will be, so based on the number of members, and each member will read the downloaded articles, 2 different articles. Now when you read the article, we have already explained this process in the previous lecture on literature review. So when you are reading the article and when you submit this assignment, how should you do? See, this is the sample assignment I have already shared with you. You are supposed to you must first of all write the topic, then you should give the link to the original paper. Now in this case, I don't need the link, because since you just have to write the name of the authors, and that is enough, because I can easily find where you have got the article from. So you will start answering the question. You can answer the question in short sentences, in detail, it's up to you. So the first question is, what are the main purposes or objectives of the research? Now in the assignment that I have given to you recently, you have already done this, but it was a small example, and it was not a full article, so it is easy for you to do. Here you have to read some 12 to 15 pages, and then from there, but you will see that you don't have to search the entire article for answering each question. Each question, you will find that is answered in a section of the article. So when you read the abstract and the introduction part, you automatically get the answer for the objectives of the research. So the first question is, what are the main purposes or objectives of the research? So here you just write, when you read the abstract, in the first sentence itself it will be written, what is the main purpose of the research? Like here, in the title itself you see smart order development solutions in e-business activities. So that is an article, but this article was not a pure research article. In your case it will be a pure research article, so you will try to search for only research articles. Then you will go to the next question, what are the sub questions, sub objectives? So when you read the article, you will see in the introduction, in the methodology, in both the places, you will see that from the main objective, the article has got some sub questions also, sub research questions, yani mini research questions. So you have to find them. Then you will go down and here, the answer will not be written exactly in the literature, in the article, but you will have to find out, you have to ask yourself, how was the purpose of research developed? Where will you find this? In the introduction section of the article, introduction. So in the introduction, you will see, when you read it, you will get a feeling that the researcher got the idea from reading articles, papers, etc., observation. He has mentioned it, she has mentioned it in the introduction section, where the idea of this research came from. After that, in the fourth question, you will have to answer, how is the paper structured? Now this is very easy. This is extremely easy. You have to just see the sections and you have to mention it here in the answer. Normally, it will be almost the same what you are seeing here, but just write the names of the sections. That's it. That's what you have to do here. Then in the fifth question, what is the general background information about the research given? Faith Merino technology. So general background information, yani where did this concept come from? So in the introduction, again, when you read it, you will see that the researcher is saying that I got the main idea, or this is the main background of this research. This research is belonging to technology, etc. So when you read it, you will be able to answer this. Question number 6, define the research problem. So you will, when you read the article, you will then understand that the purpose and the topic, they are not the technical problem, it has to be stated in technical way. So when you state it in technical way, you will see that in the research methodology, the problem will be very clearly written. Like here you see the old manual system information requires. You have to just copy from there and put it here. Research problem as precisely as possible what is mentioned in the article. Remember that you have not to do anything in this, nothing new. You have to just read the article and answer the questions from the article itself. It's like reading comprehension, nothing more than that. So if you read the article well, you will be able to understand that all the questions are answered in the article itself. 7th question, how was the research conducted? Methodology. Now here the methodology section is there. Read that section, and this section will give you all the information regarding the methodology. Question number 8, how was the methodology decided? That also will be mentioned in the article itself. The researcher will tell you how she decided on the methodology, what type of method she used in the article, in the research. 9th question, what was the instrument? Now instrument, or the adviyat lil bhuth, this is we have not discussed so far, but you know about them because we have read it earlier also and we have seen some examples. So questionnaire, observation, interview, evaluation forms, all of these are instruments. So the instruments for collecting data for research, it will be mentioned in the article itself. You have to just see what instrument was used to collect the data. Now, before moving forward, I'll tell you that in the assignment, in the other assignment that you have to submit this week, not this one, the table, the boxes examples, some of the students are asking what is meant by unit of analysis, what should we write. So we have already discussed in the last class that the unit of analysis is the final respondent. Who are we going to get the data from? So we have to be very clear, when we are deciding on the research, when we write the problem, then we'll have to ask ourselves, where are we going to get the data from? So here is, here you see, how was the instrument? So who will you take the instrument to collecting data? So here is the answer, unit of analysis, maybe individuals or groups, companies. You have to answer that. Question number 10, how was the sample selected? That's very important for you to read, because in the chapter on sampling, in the chapter of sampling, we will discuss sampling, but that will be theoretical. We will learn so many techniques. When you read the articles, then you will understand how to properly apply sampling technique, how to choose the sample from. So when we discuss the chapter, you will understand sampling, but here you have to just answer by reading the article, how was the sample selected? Question number 11 was, what was the statistical method used? Analysis. Okay, so in analysis you will see they mention everything. In a good article they will inform you about everything, how they did the analysis, what statistical test they used, which software they used. Everything will be written. You have to read and then answer the question here. Question number 12, what were the results of the test? So where will you find this? In the findings. There will be a section in the article called findings, Nataij. There you will read and answer the question here. Question number 13, then, what answers were found for the general research question? So you will see the main objective of the research. What is the result for that? It was like smart solutions for e-shopping or e-commerce. So in the last section, in the conclusion section, you will see that the researcher, the article will mention what was the final answer, final result of the research. And question number 14, what are the main findings and implications of the research? So main findings means the answer of the research questions. So when you read the articles, you will see that at the end they will summarize the answer for research question. This is that girls are more keen to buy online. These are this is the probability. P value is 3.8. Everything will be written there. You have to just read and note it here in your literature review assignment. After you have submitted the 2 reviews to the Dropbox assignment, after you have submitted the assignment on Dropbox, and as you know, I have extended the deadline, so you have more time now to do that. Then what you do? Then you after that, it's the job of your group leader. Now the group leader will will collect the all the she can do in any way. Okay, she can make a format like this and share with all her members and on Google, and then each one of you can mention, type or enter there herself, or she can do it herself. So it depends on the group leader how she manages this task. So when you submit your the research articles to the group leader, she has to summarize your articles in these 7 sections. Firstly, each member has got two, so there will be 16, 17, 18 rows, 16 or 18 rows, and she will start writing. Number one, name of the author. So you don't have to write the full name of the author. You have to write it as standard, like Sadiq 2004. This is the standard way of writing the citation. Then what was the main research objective of this article? So very briefly you have to summarize, like a study of teenage cloth buying behavior. Location of the study. So you will see that in the research it will be mentioned where did the research take place. So you will mention it there. What was the type of research? Now you know that there are basically two types of research. One in which language is analyzed. You, like example, you are speaking and somebody is noting down, and then later they analyze. That is called qualitative research. But here, when you say I want to take numbers, I want to take numbers response in the form of number scale, then that is called quantitative research. Sometimes there is a mix also, they take both. In the examples you will see, in the assignment example you will see that there are mixed methods also. Population and sample size. So population and sample size, teenage cloth buyers in Makkah, and that is your population. Now you have to understand what is population, and then you have to answer. So in the research article itself it will be mentioned that from my research objective was this and this was my population. From there I took a sample of 200. Then data analysis method, it is mentioned there. You don't have to do anything extra. It's already mentioned there. It's mentioned that I used data analysis method like t-test or ANOVA, etc. And finally, main results. So main results, you will see what are the main results. I am just giving an example like hypothesis or etc. It may be there is no hypothesis. So you just have to summarize the main results in the final column. And this way, this table will contain 16 or 18 rows based on the number of members, and this will be submitted by the group leader. Now I have already got the group members list, and I'll add you to the groups myself. And when I do that, when I am completed with this task, then the group leader can submit this summary table. So you have more than 1 week now for both the tasks. So you carry on with your work. I hope this clarifies the main assignment for the project. And I tell you, when you are complete with this, both the members as well as the group leaders and all the class will then see how you have improved in your learning, how it has changed your learning. If you do it properly, and you are bound to do properly, because if you don't do it well, then you will not be able to solve the answers, and then this assignment itself is 10 and it has got a lot of scores. You will have midterm exam based on this assignment, so you have got to work hard on this. Now coming to the lecture, today we are covering the part of the previous lecture and also a part of the next lecture. So I will not take more than 30 minutes, half an hour to summarize or to discuss what we are going to see in the lectures. Now we stopped last time on in the process of research. We were discussing about constructs, hypothesis, your proposition, variables. I am sure you have studied yourself also about these terms, and it will become more clear when you do the assignment of examples as well as the literature review assignment. It will become clear. Now there was one point where we could not discuss in the last class. It's about theory and model. We discussed constructs, variables, etc. After the research is over, after the research is done, the results are very important. They give very important clues for application and a more technical term is generalization. Okay, so you can note this term called generalization. 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 What does it mean? It means that your result can be applied in other contexts also. Are you taking the attendance now? Okay, I'll stop now then. Now I'll just write it here so that you can. I was talking about a term called generalization. Okay. If you have if you have internet and you have Google, you can just try to translate and see what this term means, which is very important for research. Generalization is a term that means if I say okay, we were facing, or we may be still facing, the problem of my voice, South, and your attention. So suppose you were doing a research on the voice quality in studio based classes, the quality of voice and the attention of the students. You did a research and found that voice quality affects the attention of students. Now the question is it true for anywhere, or it is only true for a specific place, in a specific context, in a specific. So these are the many questions that the researchers will ask. So because in research you cannot just force your opinions. It has to be scientific, so it will be tested in other cases. Just based on your research, you cannot say that voice quality affects the attention of students and give a theory. It's not true. To say that it's a theory, it has become a fact, you will have to prove it. So how will you prove it? You will prove it by testing the same, doing the same research at different places. Now all of you are ready with your topics. Some of you are talking about recruitment, training, MIS, e-commerce, etc., etc. So many topics are there. Now you will see that with your limited resources and time, you can do your research only in a particular place and a given small sample, and then you will write your conclusion that all right, my answer is that recruitment practice affects the performance of the company. But then the question will be, does it affect the performance of company in every country, every place, every industry? Your answer is no. So you must understand that generalization means that your results, the results of your research, is applicable to other contexts also. You can say that what I have found here is true for other context also. If you are able to do that, it is called generalization. When you are able to generalize your results to a very standard level, you call it a theory. It becomes a theory, like Einstein's theory, like culture theory, management theories are there. Because theory means that if you say that there is something called organizational behavior, or you say Sluk al-Amil, or you say there is a something called capital appreciation pricing theory. When you say theory, it means that it has been tested in all contexts and it is now a fact. You can easily say that this is a fact. So there is last time we were talking about one network, right? I hope you remember. There was a network we discussed in the last class, which is the name of which is nomological network. NOMOLOGICAL, nomological network, which was something like this, what you are seeing on the screen right now. And what was there? There was a construct, and there was a variable, there was a mediating variable, there was a moderating variable, and there was the dependent variable. That was the research model. So based on that model, when you test the model many times, the model is converted into theory. So theory is in the text form. Theory is in the textual form. When you write the general nature of the model, it becomes theory. And when you illustrate it in the form of variables, in the form of constructs and variables, represented in a diagram in a figurative form, it is called a model, a representation of the theory. Now, second point. So far, what we have discussed. If some of you came late or it was not clear earlier, first of all, I explained to you about the literature review assignment, what individual members will do, what the group leader will do. And I hope I clearly explained to you. The second point that you will have to understand in the research, which is very important for you, is generalization. And when you understand generalization, it will be very easy for you to understand theory. Now coming to the next point to understand, when you do research, and more specifically business research, research is done for what? What is the basic reason for doing the research? To find an answer. To find an answer, a solution to a problem. So when we have some information already, there can be a situation, and you will see that when you read the literature, you find all information that you were trying to get regarding your research. So now you can go and do some advanced research. But there are many topics, or there are many business problems which are new, which have come for the first time. So the research purpose defines the type of research that you are doing. There are three types of research. Number one is exploratory. Number two is descriptive. Number three is explanatory or causal research. Explanatory or causal research. Now, first of all, try to remember these three names. That's your first task. You have to remember these three names. Like, you must remember the name that I gave you before discussing the theory. What was the name? With G, generalization. So now in this case, please remember the names of the three types of research based on purpose. And I hope you all understand purpose, okay? So purpose means the reason for doing research. Now, number one, exploratory. There are many problems or business research topics which you want to understand, which is not clear, which you want to understand for the first time. So in this case, you do exploration, and so it is called exploratory research, because you don't have enough information on it. You are doing it for the first time, so you will have to go and start finding the facts yourself. And one of the major characteristics of this type of research is that there normally is no hypothesis. There is normally no hypothesis in this exploratory research. You go without any guess, without any question in your mind. There is a question. There is definitely a question to ask. What is this phenomenon? What is this event? What is the business problem? But you don't have any guess what answer you will get. You are not going to get an answer about this problem. You are going to understand the problem. So when you just understand a problem or a business situation, it is called exploratory research. Coming to the number two, descriptive. It has come from describe, right? Vada, or you explain. Not explain, it's between explain and explore. In describe, what you do, you don't just go and understand the problem only. Rather, you also try to, now because you have information on the problem, you try to ask more questions about the problem. Why did this happen? What is the characteristic of this problem. So if you are taking a research or you are doing a survey of the classroom, you are not just exploring the classroom, because when will you explore when you don't have any information about the classroom? You just don't know what is the seating capacity, what is, but when you have some information, you have a handbook that has explained to you what type of classroom it will be, how many students are there, etc. So then you don't just explore. There is no reason to explore. Rather, you will go to do description. You will describe the classroom. You will go ask some questions about the characteristics of the classroom. What is the average age? What is the average GPA, etc., average height, all. When you do this, when you describe the business problem or describe the research topic, it is called descriptive research. The third is the most advanced and most required research. It is called explanatory or causal research. Sometimes you should note that sometimes in many researches all of them are present. You explore also, especially in projects. When you take up projects, when a company gives you a project, so you have all the stages. You first of all go and explore. That's your first stage. Then you go and try to describe the problem. Finally, you explain the problem. And explanation means now you are trying to find relationships. You are trying to find relationships between the variables or constructs. So this is the advanced research type, most advanced research type. And normally when you read the articles for your assignment also, most of them will be of causal nature or explanatory nature. So the research by purpose. First of all, we already discussed, even today we revised, that based on the data collected, research can be of two types. One, quantitative, and the other qualitative. Many researches, most of the research that is done in a scientific manner, they deal with numbers. They even record the responses in the form of numbers. So use scales to measure responses. In the second type, you use language or behavior, pictures, etc. Those are called qualitative research. I hope you have noted this already. If you have not, just note it down, please. Just now we discussed about another classification of research based on the purpose. Number one, there are research which are only supposed to explore. There are researches whose objective is to describe a problem or an event, and there are researches in which you go in details of the problem and try to see why is this happening, what is the relationship between this variable and the other variable. So when you do at that level, It is called explanatory or causal research. Now, in exploratory studies, you find out what is happening, to seek new insights, to ask questions, to assess phenomena in a new light. You read a lot on the subject, and then you finally conclude. Like in your literature review, what you are doing is you are reading only. But after reading also, when you read 12 articles, when the group reader will summarize, you will see that you have some new idea about the same problem. That is how, that is why research is an ongoing process, and everyone is contributing. Everything that you do in research, even in your classroom project, what you are doing is very important. If you do it honestly, you become a part of the research world. So you are helping the research to grow by just a small literature review assignment. Also, you are helping the research world. And how do you do exploratory studies? It can be by a search of literature only. It can be by interviewing the experts in the subject or focus group interviews. These are some of the techniques of doing the exploratory research. Descriptive studies, we try to portray an accurate profile of persons, events, or situations, right? So when we say classroom, we are not just talking about exploring classroom. We will explore classroom when we when we explore classroom, we don't know anything about the classroom. That's the first stage of research. But now we know something about the classroom. I know I have the attendance sheet with me. So what I can do, I can now describe. So when you describe, go on describing, giving accurate profile of the situation, problems, etc. It is called descriptive studies. And then at the most advanced stage, you try to establish relationships between variables. Then you talk about variables. And normally in the descriptive and exploratory, in exploratory you don't know about the variables also. What are the variables actually? In descriptive you are now close to saying that this is the variable. This is the main object of the study and that is the variable. And I'm sure you know, I know that you are understanding that constructs cannot be measured, variables can be measured. And the statement given in by using constructs is called proposition, and the statement given by in the form of variables is called hypothesis. I hope you remember this. So in the explanatory studies, what you do, you establish causal relationships. You ask questions. Who is affecting what? What is the relationship between the two variables? And for this, a good, this is one of your assignment. This is one of your assignment examples. So I'll just discuss in brief so that it's easier for you to submit the assignment. This is a different assignment than your literature review assignment. This was, there was a quiz supposed to be on this, but I thought quiz will not help because I want you to read this. Now see, it's clearly written here, that this is an explanatory study. And if you have read it already, you know the facts. But even if you have not read it, just see. I'll ask you to point on some places and things will become very clear to you. Right here, you see, it's talking about relationship. So Declan is a person, is researcher, wants to study the relationship between the written accounts of environmental policies which organizations present in their annual report and the actual practices of the organizations. Now, very interesting research topic. You could also have taken this. The relationship between what the companies say. There are all the companies, they are saying that we do this for the environment, that for the environment. They write many things. But then, my question, will be, as a student of business, you will ask, are they really doing this or not? And this is a very valid question, because if you go and find the facts, this will be helpful to the government, to the customers, to the stakeholders. So he wanted to establish the closeness of the match between the public face of organizations and practical reality. So this is very clear that it is not just exploratory, not just descriptive, but also relationship between the public face and the practical reality. And that is why this is called an explanatory study. If there was only to explain the environmental policies of the companies, that will become a descriptive study. If you don't know anything about environmental policies of the companies, you will do an exploratory study first. Now, one important point I want to highlight here is this. So you should know that there are many types of method by which you can collect the data or you do the study. This research adopted a case study strategy. Case study is a very common method of doing research and very much in use. Declan examined 3 organizations in some detail. The very basic understanding of case study is that you don't study the full population or a large number of sample in case studies. You just choose 1 or 2. Here they have chosen 3 organizations to do a detailed study. The data collected were mainly qualitative, although some secondary quantitative data were used. So what emerged was that the written accounts of environmental policies had little effect on what happened on the ground. So this is a very good example of an explanatory studies, explanatory research. All right, coming back to what we have discussed so far, we'll just revise. Theory, when you can generalize your results to a very good extent, it becomes a theory. Research can be of 2 types on the basis of data collection, qualitative and quantitative. Research can be of 3 types on the basis of purpose. If you do not have any information on the situation, you do an exploratory research. If you know something and you want to give a better profile of the situation, you do descriptive research. And if you want to explain the relationship or the cause of something, you do an explanatory or causal research. Now the question is, in what manner can you do research? What are the ways in which we do research? To summarize, there are some common methods of doing the research, like experiment. What is experiment? Experiment is actually, it has come mainly from science. So when you study, even you as students, when you were in school in science classes, You were doing some experiments. You were trying to check what is water made up of. Even though you know that water is made up of two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen, you still are asked to do experiment to find out. So in experiment, what happens is, what is the main characteristic of experiment is that and you must understand this, that in business research also we do experiments. But what is the difference between the experiment in science, in ulum, and in idarat al-amal? What is the difference? You see, in science, main characteristic of experiment is that we do experiments in controlled conditions. We try to control the external environment. So if I am conducting a research, I keep the temperature darja harara at certain level. I can do that. I can control. You have air condition in your room. Now you can increase the temperature or you can decrease the temperature. You can keep it constant. So some way you can control. But in real business situation, in a business situation, we know as business students, you are well aware that we don't work in a laboratory condition. I hope you are understanding me. We don't work in laboratory conditions, like we cannot control the external situation. You say, I want to see the impact of advertising on consumers, and you will start doing your research. You say, I will conduct an experiment. I will take some consumers, I will take advertisements and see which type of advertisement affect the consumers. Now the problem with conducting this experiment is that there are many external variables, factors, that we can never control. In business situation or real life situation, when it comes to human beings, where there are many problems, there are many factors that we cannot control. This is called experiment. This is called the semi-experiment, quasi-experiment, because we have to do experiment, but we cannot control the situation. So remember, just to simplify so that it doesn't become very serious for you, just to simplify, experiment means conducting research in controlled conditions. Now that's one. The second method of research is by survey, asking people. Very common method in business. All of us know we do survey. Survey can be done online by, you see, Google form. Survey can be done by asking people. Survey can be done by interviewing. So survey is another strategy for doing research, taking directly from the respondents. The third is called case study. We just saw in the example of Declan, the case study research. What is the main feature of case study research? That we study only a few sample. If there are many companies in the world, we choose only one or two and we say that, yeah, we are doing case study. And the main problem with case study is the problem of the thing we studied earlier, generalization. Because we are only taking one company, two companies. There are 200 countries or 300 countries in the world, and you say, I will study only two countries and give result for the entire world. That becomes a question mark for scientific principles. So case study, but case study is used, and many times case study is a good method to do research. So when you move further, when you go into advanced stages, you will be able to decide where to do case study and where not to do case study. Then comes action research. Action research is live research, when you do research along with doing your real problem solving. So like for example, you launch an advertisement campaign and you also want to test the effectiveness of the campaign. This is called action research. So you test the situation by implementing it on the ground. So this is called action research. When you do research also and you are also doing the real work is going on and you are also testing it. This is called action research. Grounded theory is a theoretical, like you you conceptualize. You do not go to the field and do, but rather you conceptualize more. You read critically analyze the situation, and then you do research. This is not a very common practice in business research. This is a more basic research strategy. Ethnography is for a special type of field like culture or anthropology. It is mainly applied in anthropology. Ethnography means population. You study about population, their different culture, situation, how they live, how they behave. So that area of anthropology, basically, there is a special technique called ethnography. In business management also, we can use this technique, especially when you are studying culture. You can make use of ethnography, so you can go into details of how to use this method. And finally, when you do archival research, when you go and search, like for example, you want to see how advertisements have evolved. So instead of doing anything, you go for an archival research. What does it mean? It means that you can check the newspapers for the last 100 years. You go to libraries, all the libraries have newspapers, very old newspapers. So you start searching them. You keep on searching. So you take, say, every year for the last 100 years, you take 3 papers and see how were the advertisements earlier and now. So when you search for records, it is called archival research, and these are the strategies. These are the main research strategies to to choose from. Finally, there is a very important thing to understand, that when you do research, when you practically do research, you have 2 situations. One, that many times you will have to do, you have very limited money, you have limited time, so you take the responses from the sample at the same time. Like on today you collected the data, and you collected the data from all the sample today itself, and then you analyzed. It is called cross-sectional research. But longitudinal research is the second type, where you collect the data over a period of time. You collect the data over a period of time. Now the question is there any rule for using any? Yeah, you have to understand what is your requirement, which type of research. For example, if I want to study that there was one scheme, you may know that the smoking campaigns in university, right? So there are all the places you see that there are signboards, there are students are asked not to smoke. Now here, I have to see what is the impact of this campaign. I take the data from a period of time, not just one day, but over a period of time. When I started the campaign, how did it impact in the first month, second month, third month? This is called longitudinal research. And this is the last slide for today. I will not take the next ones because then we'll take it in the next class. Example of longitudinal study, very interesting, and with this we will stop the last time. LS means longitudinal study. A very interesting example of longitudinal study is, I hope now you are clear what are the two types of research based on time. One is called cross-sectional, the other is called the longitudinal. When you collect the data from various periods of time, it is called longitudinal. And when you collect the data at a particular time, only one time, it is called cross-sectional. In longitudinal study, it's practically very difficult to do. Why is it difficult? Because who has the time to wait for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years to collect the data? But this is a very important source of information and gives very important results. Like this one, there is a British television series, UK television series called 7 Up. And you must have heard that there are many series of TV shows in the West which became very popular, and they continued for many years at a stretch, like the Oprah Winfrey show of in the United States. So in the United Kingdom, in very old series called 7 Up was there. You can find the details on 7 Up on Wikipedia. This show went on for very long time. It started in very early 60s, 50s, and it is still going on. So you say it is a special type of a show where people join them, and every 7 years, it continues on, and every 7 years, I think they collect the data. So this gives a very important information of the same person who is there, with this series for 14 years, for 21 years. So it shows various information about how the person changed, and it gave social scientists a very rich source of data on which to test and develop theories of human development. In business also, for consumer behavior, for organizational behavior, this is a very important source of research, source of information. So this type of a study, when you collect the data for a long period of time and then do the analysis, like 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, 1 year, it is called longitudinal study. So based on the data collection, based on the method of data collection, timing of data collection, you can either, if your research requires, you can collect it at one point of time, or there may be, sometimes it requires that you have to collect the data from a period of time, over a long period of time. This is called longitudinal study. So at one period of time, cross-sectional, and at long time, for a long period of time, longitudinal study. So I will stop here now. I am stop recording the lecture now, and I'll put this